name is Dimitra Milan and I'm a professional artist. I mostly oil paint, but I recently fell in love with watercolor painting, and I just wanted to show you my process for that, kind of work on a page in my sketchbook start to finish, so you guys can just relax and watch me paint. So I am mostly an oil painter. I work with a lot of mixed media materials, so I'll do collage, I'll do acrylic inks, regular acrylic painting, spray paint. I really love learning all those different mediums, but I really love oil paint the best. That is like always going to be my final layer in my paintings. But recently I just totally fell in love with watercolor. I mean, I've been kind of dabbling in watercolor the past few years, but I never took it serious because I just always felt like watercolors weren't archival enough. I was just concerned about how long they last, like if they're in the sun and all that. But I kind of realized I shouldn't really worry about that. I went to Italy and I got this set, and it's made from honey. So it's really special, and a lot of these paints you can't find anywhere else. They are all natural pigments. I just love this brand of paint. And sometimes the colors are actually a little bit sticky, like honey. It's funny. This is just a really cute sketchbook I got in Italy. All this you're about to see is my personal sketchbook of random things I like to paint, and I never paint this way with oils. So I started making like little patterned sheets. So like these wolves and the roses is something I was thinking about turning into maybe some kind of like textile pattern for wallpaper, or I don't really know what I'll turn them into, but I've just kind of started this process of like repeating ideas. And these are just totally out of my head, not looking at any reference images, and I've just felt so relaxed while doing these. It's just such a freeing process because these are created in the moment. I don't know what they're gonna look like in the end. So one of my recent hobbies I started getting into has been shelling, and just going to all the different beaches around me and exploring like really early in the morning when the tide's super low and just finding like the coolest shells. I've started doing little watercolor studies of shells because they're all so different. I find it easy to paint from life when you have small little objects like this. So I'll just place it on my paper, and I start with just like a sketch first. It's kind of like a trompe-l'oeil sort of style. So trompe-l'oeil it just means like fool the eye. So it's something that's painted so realistically that it looks like it's jumping off the paper. So usually like the shadows included, they're usually life-size objects. So that is what I do with the shells here. I just think it's a fun, relaxing thing to do. So yeah, I usually with watercolor, if I'm drawing something from life like this, I do a super light sketch with graphite, and then I will go in and start adding the paint. I think this is just a very good exercise to get comfortable painting from life and to sharpen my skills a bit better and not rely only on 2D images. But I just think painting from life is a really great skill to have as an artist.
Glad you came, glad you came. When you're not around, I've been broken. Glad you came, glad you came.
So when it kind of like spreads too much like that, that tells me it's a little too wet. So I gotta wait for it to set up a bit more. I'm actually gonna go grab another shell.
Till the end of time before we go.
I've always kind of been interested in watercolor, but like I mentioned before, I was kind of worried about the archivalness. On this recent trip to Italy, this was last September, I felt like I had a breakthrough with watercolor. It just so happened on this trip that we visited this little watercolor company. First, we learned the whole process of how they make their watercolors. We got to physically mix our own pigments and create our own watercolor. That same day, we got a really cool artist to come in and teach everyone her watercolor techniques using these paints. We painted from life, and we had pomegranates and leaves and little nuts and pine cones all around us on the table, and we just got to paint for an hour, and she taught us pretty much what I'm doing right now. And that was when it all clicked for me, and I really fell in love with watercolor, and I realized how much detail goes into it and how much effort it takes to make a good watercolor. And so it just helped me appreciate the medium so much. Now I have a whole space in my studio that I dedicate to watercolors. So we made our own watercolors. I think they're going to be available very soon in our art store, but these are nice because they are tubes, so they're going to last you a very long time. So I just use a variety of different kinds of watercolor. I mostly am an oil painter, and I love oils because they're very rich, juicy, vibrant colors, and they really come alive on the canvas, and it's completely different from any other paint. Oil paint just lasts a very long time, and there's so much history behind it. I feel like you can charge the most amount of money for an oil painting. You can create so much depth in your art using oil paint that you cannot find in acrylic or even watercolor, but I mostly stick with that for my fine art paintings. But I guess I love using watercolors now, just interspersed, because it is such a relaxing process where there's not a lot of pressure to finish something. I can just sit at my table and work flat. This is pretty much dry now, so I can go in and add another layer of that darker red color, and it's not going to bleed too much. I feel like it's a very kind of intimate way of painting, and it causes me to really zoom in on, smaller scale paintings and really focus and hone my skills on the details and knowing how to layer paint and how to lean into the less is more thought. That's why I've just kind of fallen in love with watercolor, and will probably continue to do that for a while.
Living in a dry state, we all say grace, buying liquor on a Sunday across the county lines.
Before I went to Italy and started painting these roses, I was always so intimidated to just paint from my head, paint from imagination. If you're an artist, you probably can relate in some way that having a reference photo, it can be a bit of a comfort zone because you rely on that for the information and for the form. I don't really know a ton of artists who purely paint from their head all the time, especially portraits and, very difficult subject matter. So for me, when I started this process of painting these roses, it kind of just came to me one day. Like, it happened in Italy. I was listening to my husband talk about marketing to the group, and instead of taking notes, I just started sketching these roses, and then just something clicked. Like, from this kind of blob where there wasn't much happening, I just worked very, very slowly with it, and each layer, the flower became more clear to me, working from the center out to create like these little overlapping petals, and working with whatever shapes I saw, outlining some of them, using the white of the paper as the highlights of the petals, and just this whole process started to emerge for me. And that was when I really fell in love with this, and it gave me a lot of confidence to just start painting more from my head. So that's why I'm very grateful for watercolor, because it brought me that kind of confidence to be more in the moment, and it's actually helped me connect even deeper to my work. And it's definitely way less pressure than an oil painting, where that's on canvas and you're kind of stuck with it, where your sketchbook is a private place just for you.
If most our lives are lived in black and white, it makes the gray so hard to see.
So I think I'm done with this. It kind of went in a very different direction than what I thought, but I like the color scheme, and I don't know, it was just fun to do, just relaxing, and I really probably like this shell the best. Probably spent the most time on that one. I had a lot of fun watercolor painting, and it's just such a relaxing process. It's something I'll definitely continue to do. I don't know where this will lead me. Maybe more illustration type stuff. I don't know. I feel like this could be turned into a lot of different things. I think as an artist, it's just good to push yourself in all the different mediums, and we're always evolving and growing. I don't think there's ever a point where you just stop. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And if you'd love to see more of this type of video in the future on this channel, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate all your comments, all your support. I love reading your thoughts and how it inspires you. It really motivates me to keep making more YouTube videos. So also, if you have ideas for the future or you have certain questions for me, I'd love to know. And I will see you next time.